Comrade Kamala makes another huge mistake. Good morning, Kuhner country. Okay, again, jam-packed show for you today. A lot of news is developing and breaking, but without question, my friends, two massive stories, and they're starting now to collide one into the other. So, very quickly, I'm going to get into this in greater detail later in the show. Even CNN, this is CNN. CNN now says there is a whole batch of new polling out, and it's bad news for Kamala Harris. When CNN is telling you that especially in the battleground states, that things are not looking good for Kamala Harris, you know you're in trouble. And in particular, what CNN now is, this is according to their polls. Again, remember, they oversample Democrats and Democrat-leaning independents. They're now saying that Kamala Harris is dramatically, their words, not mine, underperforming is the term they're using, with Latinos, with African Americans, especially African American males, and with young voters. And now they are sounding a five-alarm fire, saying if this trend continues, if these polls hold up, Donald Trump will be the next president of the United States. So, as all of this is taking place, with her now clearly in serious political trouble, she makes another mistake. And what is remarkable is she's hardly given any interviews. Everything has been coddled. It's been softball interview after softball interview, friendly media outlet after friendly media outlet. And even shielded, coddled, propped up, protected as she is, she continues to make one gaffe, one huge mistake after another. Well, listen now to this one. She went on Wisconsin Public Radio. As you know, Wisconsin, key, pivotal swing state. Okay, one of the 5 or 6 battleground states that will effectively determine the election. And she has now publicly called for nuking the filibuster. In an interview on NPR, she said it is time to get rid of the filibuster in order to pass a national pro-abortion, in fact, a radical pro-abortion law. In particular, Kamala Harris said she supports and will push to get rid of the legislative filibuster in order to enact a law that would codify not just Roe versus Wade, because if you remember, yes, Roe versus Wade entrenched the right to abortion, but there were some limits on abortion in several states. It wasn't abortion on demand right up to 9 months. Kamala Harris supports no restrictions whatsoever on abortion. None. Literally none. An abortion in the 7th month, no problem. 8th month, no problem. 9 month, no problem. The baby is about to come out, no problem. She supports partial birth abortion. She also supports, although she doesn't want to answer the question, because she knows politically it will fry her, it will melt her in the eyes of the American public. Even she supports abortions. She says they never happen, which is a lie. Abortions or killing the baby even after it's born following a botched abortion. So she is by far the most radical pro-abortion candidate, not just in the history of the United States. I'm telling you, in the world. Let me repeat this. Every European country, so-called progressive country, I'm not talking about Poland or Croatia or Portugal or Malta, which are conservative Catholic countries. I'm talking about Sweden. Norway, Denmark, Germany, France, the Netherlands, the most socially liberal countries really on the planet, they have restrictions on abortion after 4 or 5 months. Why? Because in the final trimester in particular, it's a baby. There's no dispute that it's a baby. You can see the baby in the womb of the mother. It's got a full head. It's got legs. It's got arms. It's got a heart. It's got lungs, liver, kidney, everything, the whole package. And in fact, in many instances, by the 8th and 9th month, it could survive. It could be viable should it come out of the womb. That's why they don't authorize abortion or allow it in most countries around the world in the last trimester. Because it's naked infanticide. Not Kamala, not the Democrats. In other words, the radicals on abortion is not Donald Trump or the Republicans. The radicals on abortion are the Kamala Harris Democrats. And she wants to blow up the filibuster for that? If they nuke the filibuster, these are not my words. I'm going to play you the cut. Joe Manchin, independent from West Virginia, former Democrat. He still caucuses with them. He's a senator. He's filling out his last term. He's not running again. But Joe Manchin said his words, it will quote unquote destroy the country. I'll tell you why. Because if you allow the filibuster to be removed, any piece of legislation, no matter how radical, how extreme, how destructive, you don't need 60 votes anymore. In other words, something approaching a supermajority. 50 plus 1. And that's it. That's it. That's it. And as Manchin said, where's the incentive then to talk to each other? For both sides to hammer out a deal, a compromise, to listen to the other side. It would literally be majority rule. And the Democrats don't just want to blow up the filibuster in order to enact radical pro-abortion national legislation, a national abortion law that would wipe out all state laws, all 50 states. But they're now setting it up, and they have their plan ready. Forget Project 2025. The real plan is what Kamala Harris and the Democrats in the Senate want to impose should Kamala win and they retain a majority in the Senate. Here it comes. They want to use breaking the filibuster or ending the filibuster to then, in other words, 50 plus 1, pack the Supreme Court from 9 justices to 13 justices. Blank you. End the conservative majority. B, make Washington, D.C. and Puerto Rico states in the Union, guaranteeing for the Democrats 4 extra senators. In other words, making it now almost impossible for the Republicans to ever retake a majority in the Senate. And the big one, a national election law to federalize elections in which they would get rid of all voter IDs in every voter ID laws in every state and impose universal mail-in balloting. Blank you, we can steal every election from now until kingdom come. So they're using abortion as the Trojan horse to implement a nuking of the filibuster that would then give the Democrats 50 plus 1 to enact their radical socialist transformative agenda. Listen now to Kamala on Wisconsin Public Radio. Roll cut 15, Mike.
I've been very clear. I think we should eliminate the filibuster for Roe, and we need and get us to the point where 51 votes would be what we need to actually put back in law the protections for reproductive freedom and for the ability of every person and every woman to make decisions about their own body and not have their government tell them what to do.
Okay, first of all, it's about, my body, control my body. The government can't tell me what to do. Where were you during the vaccine mandates? Where were you during the lockdowns? Where were you during the mask mandates? I could go on and on. You phony, you fraud, you. Okay, but let that go. Listen now to Joe Manchin. It has now cost Kamala his endorsement, and I'm telling you that of many and the support of many independents. Roll cut 15A. This is Manchin in the hallway of the Senate when asked about Harris's comment on getting rid of the filibuster. Roll 15A. Mike.
Shame on her. Shame on her. She knows that filibuster is the holy grail of democracy.
You're not going to endorse it?
I'm not endorsing them. No. I think that's basically something that can destroy our country, and my country is more important to me than any one person or any one person's ideology.
It'll destroy the country. He's right. I'm telling you, this is one of the most dangerous, explosive, reckless proposals I've ever heard in my life. Manchin is now turned against her. Kirsten Sinema in Arizona has turned against her. This is going to cost her big with independents. Agree, disagree. 620 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay. Let me ask all of you, what do you make now? To me, this is a huge unforced error. And I'm not the only one saying it. A lot of people are saying it. Kamala Harris now, on the record, says if she wins the presidency, or to be more accurate, if she steals the presidency, and the Democrats retain their slim majority in the Senate, they are going to, as they say, nuke the filibuster. They are going to get rid of it once and for all, the legislative filibuster that requires on key pieces of legislation, you need not 51 votes, a raw, simple majority, but a higher majority. Not a super majority, but almost a super majority of 60 votes. She says she's going to do it for Roe versus Wade. In other words, to codify a national radical pro-abortion law. And once you nuke the filibuster, there's no going back. It's not as if you can just do it on abortion and not do it on anything else. And Joe Manchin was interviewed, said he's not going to vote for her now, that this is a huge mistake on her part. His words, not mine, that this will destroy the country because then nobody will be talking to each other, Republicans, Democrats. You've removed the last incentive for both sides to compromise, to negotiate, to talk to each other, to listen to each other. It is going to be simply raw power. Raw 50+1, and the Democrats now have a radical agenda that they say once we nuke the filibuster, we codify a national abortion law, we pack the Supreme Court, we make Puerto Rico and Washington, D.C. states in the Union, guaranteeing 4 Democrat Senate seats in perpetuity. And the big one, they federalize all elections. All elections will be federalized. All state voter ID laws will be made illegal, and they will entrench universal mail-in balloting. In other words, they will create a national voting fraud machine that will make it impossible for Republicans to ever win again. So this is why now they're calling for ending the filibuster. Now, Kirsten Sinema of Arizona has come out and said this is one of the most dumbest, short-sighted ideas she has ever heard in her life. And she's urging all independents to vote against Kamala. Joe Manchin, same thing. Many are saying this proposal is so extreme, so outside the mainstream, so radical and dangerous that this is now going to cost her even more votes. That she just shot herself politically in the foot. Agree, disagree, 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, let's go to the phone lines. Tommy in the Philippines. You're going to kick us off, Tommy. Thanks for holding and welcome.
Hey, good morning, Jeff.
Hi, Tom.
Yeah, I've been calling you for about 10 years now, and just looking back, do you remember when Harry Reid got rid of the Philippines?
Tommy, we're going to try to reestablish contact with you because you're fading on us. I just heard Harry Reid, and then we lost you. So let's try to reestablish contact with Tommy. I do remember when he did that on all these judicial appointments, and it blew up in the Democrats' face. Okay? It just blew up in their face, in the Democrats' face. It blew up. And I think your point is this may blow up as well in their face. And that's what Kirsten Sinema said. Kirsten Sinema said, they're so stupid. They're assuming that they're going to have a Democrat majority. But what if one day the Republicans get the majority? Then if you have a national abortion law, you can then have a national anti-abortion law. This is what Sinema said on her X account yesterday. She goes, haven't you people thought this thing through? If you're saying that the federal, and by the way, they're going to have to override the Supreme Court, but, let that go. If you're saying that you can impose one standard across the entire country and overrule all the states, then that also goes both ways. If you can federalize and nationalize abortion and make it legal for up to 9 months, which would be, by the way, this would be the most, if they enacted this, we would have the most radical, permissive abortion policy in the world. In the world. In the world. Not even close. Her response is, and then they could have a national anti-abortion policy enacted. Like, hello, this could blow up in our face. And, what, you don't think then they could pack the Supreme Court? What, you don't think they could start passing all kinds of stuff, 50 plus 1? So she's saying this is short-sighted, it's stupid, it's idiotic, it's unconstitutional, it's everything that's wrong with the modern Democratic Party. Now, I'm telling you, this is going to do tremendous damage to her. In the polls, politically, on every level. I understand all they're really running on now is abortion. I get it. But she's now become a single issue candidate, in essence. And the country's going to look at this, and they're going to look at it in horror. Agree, disagree, your calls. 631 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, Kamala Harris steps on a big political landmine. Let me play the cut one more time. Trump cannot believe his good fortune. I'm telling you right now, this woman politically is the gift that just keeps on giving. I thought Joe Biden was bad, honestly. Holy mackerel. Where the hell did they find her? She would screw up a one-car funeral. Really, honestly. So, here it is on Wisconsin Public Radio. She's already now bleeding in the polls. CNN, huge battery of new polls. I'm going to get to this later in the show. She's bleeding support among every key demographic group, practically. At this point, Harris would lose the election. This is what I'm just going by what CNN, the New York Times are saying. So these are her allies. These are her water carriers in the media. And they're saying, no, the numbers are terrible. So with this already happening, and she's being hammered by Trump rightly as a Marxist radical who wants to essentially now enact Obama's fourth final transformative term, in which you fundamentally transform the United States into a socialist superstate. She then comes out and says this. Roll cut 15, Mike.
I've been very clear. I think we should eliminate the filibuster for Roe, and we need and get us to the point where 51 votes would be what we need to actually put back in law the protections for reproductive freedom and for the ability of every person and every woman to make decisions about their own body and not have their government tell them what to do.
Oh, there you go. She wants to blow up the filibuster. And the reaction has been fast. It's been furious. And people are saying if they do it, and I'm telling you they will, guaranteed you take it to the bank. If they win this thing in November, again, more accurately, if they steal this thing in November, and they keep control of the Senate, that filibuster is gone. And when that filibuster is gone, it's going to pave the way not just for very destructive legislation, policies that will, turn this country into something you couldn't even imagine, but it will tear this country apart. There's no getting around it. Again, listen now to Joe Manchin. He's not a Republican. He's a Democrat, or at least was a Democrat until earlier this year when he switched to independent, but he still caucuses with the Democrats. This is Joe Manchin. He was shocked and stunned when he heard that she went all in on getting rid of the filibuster. Listen now to Manchin. He's in the hallway in the Senate saying this has cost her his support. And already online, many people are saying other independents, undecideds, people who are still on the fence, this has cost her their support as well. Listen now to Joe Manchin warning the country, don't vote for Kamala. You go down this road of ending the filibuster, you will literally destroy the United States as we know it. Roll cut 15A, Mike.
Shame on her. Shame on her. She knows that filibuster is the holy grail of democracy.
You're not going to endorse her?
I'm not endorsing her. No. I think that's basically something that can destroy our country, and my country is more important to me than any one person or any one person's ideology.
He's right. I'm telling you, he's right. Think about it, really. What incentive now do the parties have to even talk to each other? It's 50 plus 1. Go. On everything. Not 60. 50 plus 1. So you don't even have to get a couple of moderates from the other party. Any buy-in to any kind of legislation. It's just raw political power. Ram it through no matter how dangerous, how extreme, how destructive. And that's now the collision course that we're on. Now, I'm telling you, you may disagree with me. I'm just giving you my honest opinion. With her already sinking in the polls, this huge unforced error, huge. The American people don't support this. They shouldn't support this. Agree, disagree. So let me ask you, double-barreled question, numero uno. Do you support getting rid of the filibuster? Kamala and the radical Democrats say yes. I say they're insane. And B, will this cost her politically, especially with independents and undecided voters? 617-266-6868. Did she just shoot herself politically in the foot? Let's go to Larry in Leominster. Larry, thanks for holding and welcome.
Well, thank you, Jeff. How are you doing today?
Better, Larry. I'm slowly getting better and better.
Yeah, I got what you got. I got a sore throat this morning, but I grew up middle class, so it should be okay.
Larry, what do you make of this now? Why would she go this far? Why would she go this extreme if she's winning or doing well in the polls? Number one. And number two, Larry, Do you think this is now going to blow up in her face politically?
Yes and no. Her internal pollings must be showing her in the toilet politically, is why she's starting to do all these radical stuff. Notice she's got to tie it to something sexy. What I mean by that is, if you tell liberals Trump is going to get rid of abortion completely, you have their attention. If you tell conservatives Kamala gets in, she's going to take away all your guns, confiscate them, you have their attention because that's a sexy topic. I'm not afraid, but I don't think the masses quite understand the implications of, well, we're going to get rid of the filibuster. It doesn't pop like the other two. Not saying it's not bad. It'd be devastating on either side if either side tried it. But it's not something that's really going to, in my opinion, resonate or get the attention of massive voters.
Interesting. So you don't think there's going to be much of a political fallout then, correct?
Enforcements, like she lost Manchin, she lost Sinema. Because when you hear filibuster, Jeff, your history and your knowledge of it, you know it's bad. I know it's bad. How many people hear filibuster and really understand the theory behind it and what happens if they lose it?
Larry, what if the Republicans and Trump are smart, pounce all over this, exploit it, and I don't mean exploit in a bad way. I mean, when someone makes a mistake, you take advantage of it, and explain to the American people, almost in a 60-second ad, you get rid of the filibuster. Here's what's going to happen. A, you're going to have a very radical national abortion policy, but beyond that, and so we're killing, literally now we're talking infanticide. We're talking literally infanticide, killing babies, killing actual babies, number one. Number two, Puerto Rico, Washington, D.C. states, there are 4 Democrat senators, and it's going to be like this for God knows how long. You're going to see a federalized election system, no state voter ID, universal mail-in balloting. They will now be able to cheat and engage in massive voter fraud across the entire country, and no one can stop them. They're going to pack the Supreme Court from 9 justices to 13 justices. And yes, they're going to start grabbing your guns. Now they've got the power to really go after your guns. So you're looking at massive gun confiscation. If they lay it out in a 60-second ad, will that work, Larry? Or do you think this will still be above the heads of most ordinary people?
That is more the attention grabber. I wouldn't even worry too much about saying she's going to end the filibuster. Just say what would happen if she gets in office, because all those things would happen. I'm already thoroughly disgusted with the abortion radicals. Have you heard this latest line, Jeff? A baby in the womb is a parasite.
Oh, my God.
That is the latest argument to get to support abortion. Well, the baby's a parasite. It can't survive without the host. And they're calling moms hosts now, not mothers. And it's all an attempt to, demonize children and demonize babies in the womb. So I know where you're going with this. I get it, yes, but as long as they keep it like that, keep it sexy, and I hate to use that term because it sounds kind of goofy, but that is the vernacular of the catching people's attentions. It's ad popping. It catches your eye. You can say, well, they're going to end the filibuster, they're going to do this, they're going to do that, but then you start ad more along the lines of what it would be like in Nazi Germany when they took everyone's right away by mob rule. It's got to be something. I know I agree with the commercials, but it's got to be more to the point of.
No, you're right. Look, this paves the way, without question now, for the socialist communist transformation of the United States. And Manchin is saying, look, the country won't stand for it. It'll tear the country literally apart. 649 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, Kamala now goes for it. And I think she's made one of the biggest mistakes of her campaign, but that's just me. She now publicly, in fact, on Wisconsin Public Radio, has now called for the end of the filibuster, the legislative filibuster. She now says if she wins in November, she and the Democrats in the Senate are going to blow it up. That means forget 60 votes on any major piece of legislation. It will be a simple, raw majority, 50+1. And make no mistake about it, they're not just going to impose a national radical pro-abortion law. They're not just going to codify a national right to abortion. They're going to go for the whole thing. They're going to pack the Supreme Court. They're going to start massive confiscation of guns. They're going to turn Puerto Rico and Washington, D.C. into states. As I said, thereby giving 2 senators from each of those states, 4 senators for the Democrats in perpetuity, and really the whole enchilada will be a nationally federalized election system in which all voter ID laws in the states will be eliminated. There'll be universal mail-in balloting, and they can cheat and cheat and cheat ad infinitum. It would essentially cement Democratic one-party rule. And it's obvious now, Kamala feels she's got to get her base excited and galvanized because she's now bleeding in the polls. Listen now, this is Alan on Messenger, and made a very good point. Jeff, it's amazing that the party of quote-unquote saving democracy are doing everything to tear down any sense of the democratic process. Example, the filibuster. Bingo, Alan. This is from Marianne, again, on Messenger. Jeff, and she's very upset about this, and I don't blame her. I don't know where to begin. First of all, she's putrid. Yeah, I agree. Jeff, the Democrats, Kamala, want abortion up to birth. And then they want to let the babies die after birth. This is a very slippery slope because, and this is a really good point, because then people will argue that it's okay to just let old people die when they can be saved. Secondly, they never abort their children. They never encourage their children to abort. Hillary is a huge abortion supporter. She didn't abort her daughter. She didn't encourage her daughter, Chelsea, to abort her children. And why is it not too late for people like Hillary and Kamala Harris to self-abort? I would have no problem if they did. And then this is really, I think, the checkmate argument. Marianne says, look, Jeff, why is it that we can save the eggs of sea turtles and birds, and we can save the trees, but a human life? A human life is less important to put a law into place that saves human lives the way we have laws in place to save these other things? She says, I'm sorry. I'm so worked up about this. I am against abortion. I pray to God this woman doesn't win. I can't even tell you how hard I am praying for that. Marianne, join the club. Join the club. All I do is pray now. It's just in my own mind, please God, don't let her win. Please God, don't let her win. Please. Okay, one more, and then I want to go to the phone lines. All I just want to say is best audience in the business. I know, Jeff, I know. You're like a broken record, but it's true. This is Dan who emailed me this, okay, on email. Jeff, their number one goal in ending the filibuster is to confirm what the United Nations passed on Monday. It's even worse than what you've said in your opening monologue. They passed, which is true, the Global Governance Pact. And this now calls for a global government, a supranational government that supersedes the sovereignty and independence of every country in the world regarding climate change, regarding future pandemics, regarding a whole host of issues. So, to have global government, all it would take now, because remember, the Senate is where you have treaties ratified. All it would take now is 51 votes. 51 votes. This would end our country's sovereignty, in fact, every country's sovereignty, and with it, all of our rights. And as vice president, she would be the deciding vote. The UN now has an agreement with this regime. So, just so that all of you understand, at the United Nations, we have now acquiesced to their Global Governance Pact, which they passed. It is a massive betrayal of our Constitution, of our sovereignty, of our national independence. And you better believe it. You better believe it. On climate change, she's a radical. And the Democrats are radicals. And they will abide by global government, this Global Governance Pact, which is a globalism on steroids, to impose all kinds of carbon emission mandates, electric vehicle mandates. They want to outlaw gas-powered cars. They want to outlaw gas stoves. And eventually they want to outlaw all fossil fuels, which I'm telling you will destroy the economy. It will wipe out our standard of living and the middle and working class. So on top of everything else I listed about what they want to ram through on 50+1, essentially acquiescence to UN global government would be another thing that they would be able to do. Remember, the Supreme Court can't stop them. They're packing the Supreme Court. That's why nuking the legislative filibuster is everything for them. And for her to publicly come out and say it. Now, it's either door one or door two. Either she's so stupid, like Joe Biden, that she can't keep it to herself. In other words, be quiet. We got to portray you as a centrist, as a moderate. And then once we win, then, we do everything we want to do. We pass Obama's Marxist revolution, the hammer and sickle revolution. Or, and this is my take, you may disagree, she's desperate. She sees the polls. I bet the internal polls are even worse. And they're saying, if we don't galvanize and electrify our radical base, if we don't get the left in this country to come out in huge numbers, we're going down. We can't steal that many votes. Now, I don't care. Pick door one or pick door two. The answer to me is Trump. Whatever you do, don't vote for her. And now what she's done, this is how, remember, they're trying to sell and package her, brand her as this centrist, as this moderate. No, she's for fracking now. No, she's for the police. She's against defunding the police. No, she's going to visit the border now. I don't know if you heard about this. This ridiculous photo op. Now, after 3.5 years, now she's going to go and pay a visit at the border. Where the hell have you been for the last 3.5 years? But it's a way to say, you see, no, I'm for border security now. So they keep trying to change her positions over and over and over to sell her. No, she's this reasonable, middle of the road. What are you talking about? She's like Scranton Joe 4 years ago. And then she says something like this, which, as Manchin said, you don't get more extreme. As he put it, shame on her. Shame. You don't get more destructive and explosive than this. If the Trump campaign is smart, and they are, if the Republicans are smart, and they're not, they jump all over this. They can finish Kamala Harris right here, right now. She's a moderate? Right. She just undermined everything they've been trying to say about her since the Democratic convention. Blowing up the legislative filibuster is not the act of a moderate or a centrist. It's the act of a left-wing lunatic. Agree, disagree. 617-266-6868 is the number. Joe in Boston. Thanks for holding, Joe, and welcome.
Thanks, Jeff.
Hi, Joe.
I think I'm not going to stay on the phone long. I think you should explain how the filibuster works and what it is, because a lot of the audience is hearing filibuster, but they might not really know what you're talking about.
Well, Joe, the filibuster is you need 60 votes to pass any kind of major piece of legislation. So that means a senator or two can basically stand there if they don't have 60 votes and block any piece of legislation. And I know it frustrates people because they say, well, they don't get much done. But the reason why it's so important, it's not 50 plus 1. On minor things, yes, it's 50 plus 1. But on key pieces of legislation, the reason why it's 60 votes, why you have what's called that filibuster, is it's a built-in massive incentive, say, for a Republican majority to at least get some Democratic buy-in on any legislation, or a Democratic majority to get some Republican buy-in or compromise on legislation. And as Manchin rightly says, you look, what the filibuster does, whether you like it or not, is it forces both parties with conflicting views and interests and values to talk to each other, to negotiate with each other, to compromise with each other. What blowing up the filibuster means, it's now 50 plus 1. So if the Democrats have 51 votes, let's just say they keep their very thin Senate majority in the next election, after this election, and Kamala wins, they can literally ram anything, 50 plus 1. And Manchin is saying, you're going to blow the country up. He goes, for example, West Virginia is not going to accept radical climate change legislation. Their whole state is based on coal. Like what he's saying is it's going to lead to secession. It's going to, he says, look, it's not a figure of speech. It will destroy America. You can't, in other words, what 60 does is a guy like a Manchin or whoever can say, hey, look, whoa. No. You want to do something on climate change as an example. You got to make sure there are some protections for coal because my people are going to be destroyed by this. They're going to be wiped out. So it forces compromise. It forces the parties to work together. It forces a sense of everyone has to listen to each other and at least have some representation. You knock out that filibuster. It's mobocracy. It's 50 plus 1 on anything and everything. And in a big, diverse country like ours, remember, the founding fathers wanted the exact opposite. The whole basis of our constitutional republic is checks and balances, separation of powers, constant compromise, constant checking, never letting one interest become too dominant or too powerful and oppressing another, always protecting minority rights, not just, minority interests. Because they said it, and this was at the time when we had 13 states, not 50 states, a whole continent. They said, you don't understand. You run roughshod, say, at the time, the planters of Virginia. The planters of Virginia are going to leave. Or you run roughshod over the manufacturers of New England. They're going to leave. Why should they? They have no voice in their own government. So that's why you have a legislative branch, an executive branch, you have the judicial branch, you have the House, you have the Senate. It's always forcing this give and take. You have federalism, you have the central government, federal government with some powers, the rest of the states and localities. constant conflict, constant check and balance. So all of these we're a very diverse country. You know, really, people have said we're more a continent than a country. We're as big as Europe. We're 340 million spread out across the land. Now, God, you know, thank the Lord, we speak one language, we have one culture, we have a shared history. But the interests are very powerful in many many states across many regions. So this is what Manchin is warning about, saying you blow that filibuster. It's where's the need to compromise? Where's the need for people to come together? It's gone. And this is why what she said is, I'm telling you, she's a lunatic. The woman is crazy. And by the way, this, as a side point, okay, I don't want to turn this into the Constitution 101, radio show, but as a side point, the Supreme Court has already ruled abortion is a state's issue. It's not for the federal government. It's not a federal issue. That's why what they're going to have to do is they're going to have to pack the Supreme Court to try to overturn the Dobbs decision. So not only is this destructive and dangerous, one of the most destructive, dangerous things you can ever propose, it's unconstitutional. It's completely unconstitutional. So again, and over what? No, really, when you outside of some states in the deep South, and I believe Utah, okay, basically a Mormon state, abortion is legal across most of the United States after the Dobbs decision. This is why Trump came out recently and said, once I win in November, abortion will no longer be an issue. And people are like, well, what do you mean? And these dumb lefties are like, oh, he wants to pass a national abortion ban. And it's like, no, you idiot. It's the exact opposite. He'll say, look, I'll be in power for 4 years. Nothing's going to happen to abortion. Nothing. Nothing. In Massachusetts, nothing. In New Hampshire, nothing. In New England, nothing. In most states, nothing. So again, outside of the few Bible Belt states and Utah, which are going to have much more, greater restrictions on abortion, abortion is going to be legal. In California, here in Massachusetts, you can kill that poor baby up until 9 months. No one's touching your right to an abortion. In most blue states and even in many red states, abortion will be completely legal. So what's the problem? From a pro-abortion point of view, what's the problem? And remember, again, end of days, apocalyptic, this Armageddon rhetoric. Remember when Dobbs was when the Supreme Court ruled on Dobbs and they overturned Roe versus Wade? And they said after the Dobbs decision, all these liberals and Democrats, millions of women are going to die. Oh, my, back alley abortions. Oh, my God. Women will be dying left, right, and center. Not one woman has died. Not one. Nothing has happened. It stayed legal in most states. What's the problem? If you're a liberal, in the state that you live in, it's legal. The few states where it's not legal or there have more restrictions are states that most liberals don't live in. The Deep South. So what's it to you? It's an issue about nothing in reality. It's an issue that should be left to the states. The only ones that are trying to federalize it and radicalize it are the Democrats. Agree, disagree. Mark in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Mark, and welcome.
Hey, buddy.
How are you, Mark?
Good. Hey, I'm going to take you off my speakerphone. There we go. Jeff, I gotta say, Democrats love to blame Trump for this, but if they want to blame somebody, look in the mirror. 2013, 2014, a guy running the Democrat Senate by the name of Harry Reid, Jeff, decided he was going to go nuclear and blow up the filibuster and get rid of it when it comes to confirming judges. They were warned, don't do it. Don't do this. You're going to regret it. It's going to be used against you. We don't care. Hillary's going to be our next president, so we're going to do whatever we want. Harry Reid and Senate Democrats like Chuck Schumer, Liz Warren, all of those people, Cory Booker, all those leftist Democrats blew up that filibuster for confirming judges. And what happens? 2016, they fell on their faces. Donald Trump wins. Republicans control the Senate. Did they change the rule back? No, they kept the rules in place. They said, we're going to do whatever Harry Reid put in place. And then what do you get? Trump gets to confirm 3 Supreme Court justices with 51 votes. Not 60, like it should have been, 51. They used their own rule against them, and Trump got 3 Supreme Court justices. Not because Orange Man bad, because Harry Reid's thirst for power and control blew up the filibuster, okay? Were it not for Harry Reid and all those Senate Democrats, Trump never would have gotten those 3 picks in. He might have gotten 1. They would have still been sitting on them in 2020, okay? So they have no one to blame for this but themselves.
Mark,
now,
Mark, you're a genius. I'm telling you, you're a genius. Well, I don't know if you ever measured your IQ, but I guarantee you it's above 140. You're absolute genius. And your point is an obvious one. They're going to live to regret doing this should they get the power. They blow up the legislative filibuster. Believe me, one day the Republicans will have power and they'll turn it on the Dems. 720 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Let me throw another very, very quick, small log on the fire. But I'd love to get your take on this, all of you, Kuhner country. It's obvious now that Kamala and the Democrats are doubling, even tripling down on the abortion issue. She won't tell you what her positions are on so many things. She's hiding from the press. She won't tell her much of her policies or what her agenda is going to be. She's trying to hide it. But the one thing she's crystal clear on, she's almost a single issue candidate, really. It's abortion, abortion, abortion. And you can't be radical or extreme enough on abortion. And it's almost like she's making it the centerpiece of her election campaign. Now, my question to you is this. Is this enough? Am I misreading something in the voting public or the American people? Is abortion for many women and even some men, liberal men, is it that much of a primary determining issue that it supersedes, it's more important than any other issue out there? More important than inflation, cost of living, the border, crime, the economy, the cost of food, groceries, what you pay at the pump, at the gas pump, World War III, foreign policy. Is it that much of an issue to so many Americans, and especially so many women, and obviously some liberal men, that it's enough to carry her and propel her into the White House? Because they're spending so much time and political capital on this one single issue, almost to the neglect of any other issue. And so really, is it, I'm being serious, really. I want to ask women out there, I want to ask the men obviously as well, but especially women. Do the women that you know, or maybe you, do you sit up at night worrying about abortion? Worrying about having access to abortion? Worrying that your daughter or granddaughter is not going to be able to abort a baby? No, really. Is this such a seminal issue that it determines and it justifies Kamala Harris and the Democrats focusing so much time and energy on this one issue. And the other thing I'm just thinking, honestly, is don't you already have the pro-abortion feminists in your camp? Like, in other words, aren't people, look, if you're for abortion and you want it everywhere and you want it right up until birth and you want to have 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 abortions, you can't have enough abortions. You're already voting for Kamala Harris. So why is she going out there and risking the tremendous political blowback of calling for nuking the legislative filibuster on an issue that apparently, if you're on the left and you're a feminist and you're, a radical pro-abortion person, you're going to be voting for her anyway? I'm just curious. Is it that potent of an issue for that many voters that it justifies this? And if not, then why are Kamala and the Democrats so obsessed with it? 617-266-6868. I'd love to hear from you. Steve in Cambridge. Thanks for holding, Steve, and welcome.
Kuhner.
Hi, Steve.
Hi. I often hear my body, my choice, and I'd like to get your opinion because I'm curious why we never hear people say it's not your body that we're talking about.
Oh, that's a great point. Well, it's a human life. I mean, it's, you're carrying a human life. That's why, look, Steve, when a couple finds out, that the wife is, or the girlfriend or whatever, the partner is pregnant, they don't say, ooh, we have a fetus. They say, we're having a baby. I mean, we're having a baby because it's a baby. It's a human life. So you're right. It's not one body. It's two bodies. Correct?
Yeah, it is. But you never hear anybody counter that argument with that, and I'm just curious why that might be, or maybe people might think about using that because, it is a separate body. It really is.
Oh, of course. And look, think about it. What's the golden rule, Steve, right? The golden rule is do unto others as you would have done unto you. That's the golden rule of morality. It's the basis of Western civilization. Well, here, take Hillary Clinton or take Kamala. She wasn't aborted. So why would you want to abort a child in your womb? Because if you were aborted, you wouldn't be alive. You'd be dead. So you had a chance at life. Why don't you give someone else that's in the womb, that person, a chance at life? It's hypocritical. It's immoral. It's disgusting. 7:32 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer. Okay, seismic shift now in the political battleground states. Kamala Harris now. Big gamble on her part. She went on Wisconsin Public Radio and said, how committed I am to codifying Roe v. Wade, to bring it back and restore it, and to pass a radical national abortion law that would eliminate all restrictions on abortion in every state. In other words, we will have abortion legal all the way up to 9 months, even if the baby is born alive in a botched abortion, partial birth abortion, it doesn't matter. So we would have by far the most radical extreme abortion law, if she passes it, in the entire country. In the entire world. I mean, Europe, as I said, puts restrictions on abortion after about 4 or 5 months. The most progressive, liberal countries, 4 or 5 months. They ban abortion in the last trimester, obviously in case of, health for the mother or something like that. But other than these exceptions, it's banned in the last trimester. That's France, that's Sweden, that's Norway, that's Denmark, that's Iceland, that's Finland, that's the Netherlands. Take your most progressive liberal European country. So what the Democrats are proposing is really something unprecedented. Maybe communist China. Maybe. But outside of that, no other country in the world would come close to having as extreme an abortion law as she's now proposing. Now, she's now saying she wants to nuke or get rid of the filibuster, the legislative filibuster, to do it. I want to play the cut one more time. Everybody's talking about it. It's all over the internet, all over social media, and many independents are saying they're disgusted and turned off by it. Roll cut 15, Mike.
I've been very clear. I think we should eliminate the filibuster for Roe, and we need and get us to the point where 51 votes would be what we need to actually put back in law the protections for reproductive freedom and for the ability of every person and every woman to make decisions about their own body and not have their government tell them what to do.
Politically, is this a winner or a loser now for Kamala and the Democrats? Michelle in New Bedford. Thanks for holding, Michelle, and welcome.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Michelle?
Doing well, thanks. So, first off, what she is trying to do with this Roe is absolutely disgusting. It is legalized murder, and it is disgusting that she is basing her campaign on this, because she's basing her campaign on literally murdering children. Secondly, to answer your question, I don't think this would propel her into the White House, but I do think that this is a huge issue for a lot of uninformed or undecided voters, because what's happening is, you're right, the people who are going to vote for her, people who want these abortions as birth control, they're going to vote for her anyways. But what they're doing is they're spewing all of this vomit and all of this hate that they're going to have their personal rights taken away, their reproductive rights taken away, and that they're not going to be able to have abortions, and it's going to have to be done with a coat hanger or something like that. That's the vomit that they are spewing to our young voters, our new voters, as well as some of the undecided voters. And I think that goes over and beyond our crisis at the border for some people. And I speak from personal experience, because my sister is one of those people where that is the first thing to her. Bringing migrants in, that's humane. Having our government pay for their things, that's humane, because that's what we do. We help people. But her main concern is, will her daughter have access to kill a child as a form of birth control? And it's disgusting.
Michelle, if I don't want to get too personal, and if I am, please tell me. How old is your sister? I mean, just ballpark. How old is she?
She's a year older than me, so she's in her mid-40s.
So, can she still get pregnant?
No, she cannot.
See, now this is another thing I don't understand. And again, I'm sorry to ask these personal questions, but if she can't get pregnant, what's it to her whether you can have an abortion or not? In other words, hey, look, I can't get pregnant, so I'm never going to have an unwanted child or whatever, fetus, whatever you want to call it in liberal lingo. So if I'm not going to get pregnant, what's it to me? What is it about abortion that she feels like it's some sacred right that she's willing to risk everything for? Why is it so seminal and so important to her?
Her main concern is that her daughter can have access to it if need to. And then, of course, what argument does everybody always bring up? Well, if it's, sexual abuse, if it's rape, if it's incest. And again, with putting it back into the states, that's putting it back into the hands of the people. That is the people who are going to vote on this, whether or not there's restrictions. And I used to have these statistics, but the amount of people who get pregnant and have and have abortions out of that rape is such a low percentage compared to the abortion rate, because mainly people are using it as a form of birth control. People don't even realize that Roe was using it as a birth control method. And then when she won, when she was such a huge activist for abortions and she won, well, when that money train ran out, guess what? She slipped to the other side and started lobbying for non-abortions. And then she flopped again before she died saying, oh no, it's about women's rights. To her, it was all about money and all about the fact of, I want to be able to go, be promiscuous, and excuse my French, open my legs and do what I want and not have any consequences. And that is the world that we're living in now, is this entitlement, no consequence world that these people want. And it's crazy.
Michelle, with all the contraception that's available out there, and there's so much of it, and it's cheap. Mm-hmm. In fact, it's almost free. If you have health insurance, it's practically free. Why do women, and in most states, it's legal, and in most states, it's legal almost until birth. Like, for example, take your sister. In Massachusetts, nothing is going to happen. Literally up until 9 months. No matter what Trump wins, say in November, no one's touching abortion rights in Massachusetts. So her daughter can have an abortion right up until the baby is born, right up until 9 months. If she's up in New Hampshire, I think it's 6 months, which is more than most countries, in fact, more than any country in Europe. So I'm just curious, with all the contraception that's available and how cheap and abundant it is, and the fact that most states it's already legal and nothing will happen to it no matter what Trump does or whether he wins, why are they still so obsessed with abortion? Like, well, sorry, Michelle, but what, they don't want to take the pill? They don't want to have the guy wear a condom? Like, what is it? Like, why, again, why, oh my God, I have to have abortion. If I don't have abortion, I can't have sex. That's not true. You can have as much sex as you want. Just use contraceptives. Am I wrong, Michelle?
But what, they don't want to take the pill? They don't want to...
Sorry, Michelle? Michelle, can you turn... we lost you, Michelle. You got to turn your radio off because I was hearing myself in the background there. But, look, I'm asking really if any of you know people like this. Really, I'm trying to reason with people like this. The availability of contraception, and I don't, the pill, condom, I could go on and on and on and on. I mean, what, they don't want to be on it? Is that what it is? And so they just figure, no, I don't want to take the pill, or I don't want my lover or whoever to wear a condom. It ruins the experience. No, really, I'm serious. So, but if we get pregnant, I can just kill it. Just, as Michelle put it, it's abortion as birth control. Is that what it is? Because with all of the contraception available, plus the fact that it's legal in most states, plus the fact that here in Mass and New York and California and Illinois, so many states, here, all of New England, it's abortion on demand. Anywhere in New England, abortion on demand up until the baby is born. The only exception is New Hampshire, where it's legal up until 6 months. And it's only banned in the last trimester. And that's, by the way, that's more permissive, more liberal than any country in Europe. I think Sweden is 5 months, and they're the most liberal. Germany is right up there, 4.5 months. The Scandinavian countries, 4.5 months. So New Hampshire has more liberal abortion, has a more liberal abortion law than any country in Europe. So, I mean, 6 months to have an abortion. How much more time do you need, man? So, I'm asking, why are all of these feminist women so petrified of losing the right to abortion and wanting one? 749 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, super quick, and I mean super quick. I want you to listen now. This is CNN. Okay? CNN. Here is Jim Acosta, one of the biggest water carriers for Kamala, Biden, I mean, this is Jim Acosta, a rabid Trump hater. And CNN is saying, according to our polls, according to the New York Times Siena poll, according to all these polls, Kamala is in big trouble. She is hemorrhaging support among Latinos, in fact, at an alarming rate among Latinos, among African-American black men, among young voters in particular as well. And as things stand right now, she's going down. Now, this is CNN and the New York Times, her allies, who are saying this. And maybe this explains now why Kamala is going all in now on getting rid of the filibuster and pushing for a radical national abortion law. Listen now to Jim Acosta saying, you look at these numbers, it's grim, especially in the Southwest, Arizona, Nevada, these key pivotal battleground states. Roll cut 16, Mike.
One of the things that we should note, and I don't know if we can show this number, I want to put this up on screen, Latino voters have moved away from Harris in Arizona. If you believe this New York Times poll, her lead has shrunk by 11 points in that voting bloc. She was at 60% in August, now 49% now. She's finished. I mean, look, I think it's even worse than what the polls are saying. You can't lose that many. You can't, look, it would be like, think about me telling you Trump is losing white working class voters by, 11 points. You'd be like, oh my God, Jeff, ay. I'm just, to give you an example. You'd be like, he's in trouble, man. He's in free fall. And I think this is, to me, it's a sign of panic. That she's got to resort now to the abortion card at this, and with this kind of extreme pitch. They can see the polling, and it's not good. 617-266-6868. Agree, disagree. Henry in Walpole. Thanks for holding, Henry, and welcome.
Yes, Jeff. Kamala is setting the stage for next Tuesday's debate. Tim Walz is going to replicate what she's saying, they're going to portray Vance as a anti-abortion extremist. He'll be ready, though, I think, to destroy Tim Walz on this issue. The thing that we're concerned about is that George Soros is spending millions now down in Georgia and Arizona and other battleground states under the umbrella of something called the Young Americans. He's enrolling them, whether they're legal or illegal. They're coming out in droves. There's a lot of money involved. And last night on Jesse Kelly, Spencer Lindquist, you should have him on. He's with Live Action. He's very fully aware of all the money going in now to these battleground states from George Soros, bringing in young people, paying them, enrolling other young adults under the disguise of the Young American political movement. And they're getting this money, and they're actually enrolling them, and the numbers are going way up among the young adults now over the past few weeks. I'll give you his name again if you could get him on. Spencer Lindquist, Lindquist.
We're going to do everything we can, Henry. Look, I can just tell you this. I've read several stories now just to confirm what you're saying. In Georgia, in Pennsylvania, in Wisconsin, those three I can tell you I know for sure. I suspect in Nevada and I think Kamala's written off Arizona. I think, but in Nevada and Michigan as well. But definitely in Georgia, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin, there has been a massive increase in voter registration over the last couple of weeks, and it is tied to people with no proof of citizenship, no ID whatsoever, none. So what that's telling me is they're starting to get the illegals now to register. They're getting ready now to have a massive surge or wave of illegals vote in this election to try to steal it for Kamala Harris. And Soros is bankrolling most of this. He's an evil man. He's one of the most evil men on the planet. Okay, to put it bluntly. Now, what you also need to be aware of, Henry, you're completely right. But I want to add this, and all of you need to hear this. A huge victory for Kamala. The Federal Communications Commission, the FCC, I believe it was yesterday. It was either yesterday or the day before. Okay, so 24 to 48 hours. Just approved Soros's purchase of over 220 radio stations across the country, including, by the way, my former employer across in Brighton, Odyssey, which used to be Entercom. So, and WEI and some of these other stations that they own now are going to be completely controlled by George Soros. Had WRKO not been spun off in this merger between Entercom and CBS Radio, which led to the creation of Odyssey, and then was just driven into the ground, and Soros is now picking up all the pieces. Had WRKO not been sold to iHeart, I would be out on the street, literally, like no exaggeration. I would have been fired today. No show. Kuhner Report is off the air. All the other conservative shows are off the air. Soros now is going to try to control talk radio. They bought out the Drudge Report. The Drudge Report, everybody said Drudge played a key role in 2016 helping Trump beat Hillary. So they bought out the Drudge Report. The Drudge Report is not what it used to be under Matt Drudge. It's now a liberal site, an anti-Trump site. They realize talk radio has been the key, the pillar of Trump's support. So what Soros is now doing is he is gobbling up hundreds and hundreds of radio stations. By the way, he wants Cumulus next. That's what I'm reading in the trade publications, which is a big syndicate. And he wants to topple iHeart. He wants this show. I'll tell you this right now. He wants my show off the air. He wants Mark Levin off the air. There's a handful of us. He wants us off the air. And he's going to pay top dollar to buy up companies in order to try to get us off the air. So, and by the way, the FCC was a 3-2 vote. 3 Democrats, 2 Republicans. All 3 Democrats said yes. The 2 Republicans said no. Ted Cruz was warning about this for months, saying the FCC is going to fast track George Soros's purchase and just in time for the election. So they're now making a move, not just on registering illegals, but now completely controlling and dominating talk radio. So people like me can't report to you, the great audience, the great listeners of Kuhner Country, and to the American people, that they're registering illegals to vote. So it's a 2-pronged offensive. Register illegals and buy up talk radio so you can eventually purge all conservative voices from the air. Look, these leftists are serious people. They play for keeps. This is what I keep trying to warn everybody. They're not playing around. At the UN, they're not playing around. They want a global government. They just signed a pact, the Global Governance Pact 2 days ago. They want a UN world government. The globalist oligarchs fear Trump, fear us, fear MAGA. And they will do everything in their power to not just stop Trump, because they realize, look, let's say Trump falls short. I think he's going to win. My belief in this. But just for the sake of argument, say Trump falls short. It's next man up. It'll be J.D. Vance. He'll pick up the torch and keep going. You see, they got to break the movement. They have, as Trump said, yes, they're after me, but they're really not after me. They're after you. I'm just in the way. So this is what Soros and Gates and Bezos and the World Economic Forum. And by the way, I don't know if you saw the speech by the Argentinian president, Javier Milei. It was a magnificent speech. The new conservative president of Argentina. That man is incredible. He is the Trump of Latin America. I love that man in a non-sexual way. I love that man. He called out the World Economic Forum right there at the UN, saying everybody knows the dirty little secret. The World Economic Forum is running the UN and running the globalists. And he warned everybody, if they have their way, and he said it, their goal is ultimately depopulation. We know, we see it in Argentina, we see it in Latin America. It is going to lead to a world with a very bleak future. I'm quoting now verbatim. So they fear, you see, as long as we're around, a Javier Milei can win in Argentina. A Giorgia Meloni can win in Italy. A Nigel Farage can win in Great Britain. I could go on and on. Then their power is constantly threatened. That's why they have to break us. If they break us, they win. Henry, thank you very much for that call. 617-266-6868 is the number. Mel in New York. Thanks for holding, Mel, and welcome.
Yes, good morning, Jeff.
Hi, Mel.
Hi, how are you today?
Good. I can hear the horses in the background, Mel.
Yeah, I'm walking one. He just
I was going to say, are you riding one or are you walking one?
I'm just walking him, yeah.
You're just walking.
Pulling him out, yeah. But,
no, go ahead. The floor is yours, my friend.
You know, Jeff, I'm surrounded by libtards, liberal Democrats. I guess we're going into what they call Peace Week. Now, I see these lawn signs in front of their homes, in front of is that Presbyterian New England Church, where they've got the gay flag flying out in front of it and all that, too. In front of the church and all that. So anyhow, they're looking for peace on Peace Week, but they got wars all over the world. They're executing babies after birth. I mean, I don't see how that's peace when you want to kill a defenseless child. But this is what they espouse is peace. But if like I said, look at all of what they've got us into, and they call that peace. But that's what I wanted to express to you this morning. I mean, I know I'm off topic in regards to
because it goes back. No, Mel, really, it goes back to what Kamala is and what she stands for, and this global governance pact that Biden and Harris agreed to at the UN. And Milei, again, just to go back to Javier Milei, the president of Argentina, he said, you all want perpetual war. That's what you want. You don't want peace. You want perpetual war. You want perpetual war with Russia. You want perpetual war in the Middle East. You want perpetual war in Africa. You want perpetual war all over the world. Because war, A, serves their depopulation agenda, number one, and number two, it lines the pockets of their corporate masters, these globalist oligarchs, who are making untold billions of dollars. And so Milei is warning the world. He's not the only one. Trump is warning. Many of us are warning the world. But at the UN, Milei said, this is not going to end well for the planet. He goes, I'm trying to warn everybody. Look, Iran is on the verge of going nuclear. Russia has the biggest nuclear arsenal in the world. China, I mean, I can't stand the communist Chinese. Everybody knows that. But facts are facts. They got a massive nuclear arsenal. They have the largest land army in the world. If we have a war with China, nobody wins. It's just a fact. That's why you have to contain them. As Trump says, you got to be smart. You got to find a way to weaken them, undermine them, contain them. but never letting it lead to war. But when you have people that are controlling our political leaders who are determined to have World War III, well, my God, we're going to get it. And that's what Millet is warning about. And he's going right back to what you're talking about, Mel. He says this is Klaus Schwab, and this is Soros, and Bezos, and Bill Gates. This is the World Economic Forum. This is their ultimate agenda. And he named their project. He said, look, it's even in their own pamphlets. Like, it's not something they're hiding. It's right there. You can read it on their website. So you're dead on, Mel. All these dumb liberals are like, peace, I want peace, peace, peace. So why are you voting for war and more war? Hello. 617-266-6868 is the number. Agree, disagree. Dan in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Dan, and welcome.
Thanks for taking the call, Jeff.
My pleasure.
When thinking about this, you've got to think that these people want the power, the unmitigated raw power of life over death. So abortion is perfect for them. They can have a feeling of divinity, a godlike power over people where they can choose life over death. And it's the same thing on death row with all the criminals who are really, really bad. You notice that they always want to save them, power of life over death. The same thing with little babies and situations like that of the unborn. They want the power of life over death. They want the divinity of it. They want the power of it. And again, you just hit a point where wars. What's war? Life and death. The power of life and death. If you want to cut down the population of the world, and that's your mission, of course you want war. You want to cut down on the population in certain countries, of course you want abortion, because you can control the population. You can control life and death, which is godlike, and they want to be godlike, Jeff.
Dan, I think you really, really put your finger on it. I think you really did. In other words, what's ultimately driving them? I mean, we say, power and control, which it is. But really, ultimate power, ultimate control is to be like a divinity, to be godlike. And I think that's the ultimate aphrodisiac. It's the ultimate thrill. It's the ultimate addiction. They say power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely. It's like worse than heroin or fentanyl. Once you get a taste of it, you just can't stop. You can't stop. For a man to be like a god. And I think that's what we're starting to see with this globalist regime. That you have these globalist oligarchs who just crave, as you put it rightly, to have complete power over life and death. And this is the disaster that they're taking us on. Because they can't stop themselves. And there's nobody there to stop them except us. And, I got to say this, Dan, as you were talking, I was thinking the Democrat governor of Pennsylvania, Josh Shapiro, when he was with Zelensky on Sunday at this ammunition plant in Pennsylvania, to all of you, please look. I want you to see the video. Don't take my word for it. Zelensky is standing right next to the Democrat governor, to Shapiro. And there are artillery shells. And they're openly bragging that these artillery shells, made in Pennsylvania, are going to be used to kill Russian civilians, Russian children, Russian women, old men. And Shapiro is autographing the artillery shell. And he's got this diabolical, huge smile on his face. He's laughing. He's like the Joker, the movie, The Joker. Like this, almost like a psychopath reveling in his evil. Ha ha ha! Ha ha ha! And he's signing autographing the artillery shell. And there's Zelensky autographing the artillery shell. I'm like, these people are sick. They're sick. And it's exactly what you're talking about. I am like God. I can kill someone at will. I'm going to sign the artillery shell, and then we're going to launch it. We're going to lob it, and human lives are going to be snuffed out. I am like God. You know, the Roman emperors, you know, the thumbs up and the thumbs down in the arena. That's the expression, thumbs up or thumbs down. It comes from that. And the power of life and death over the Christians in the arena. Do they live or do they die? And the thumb is in the middle. Does it go up or does it go down? And all the Roman emperors said, there was no greater thrill or sensation, no greater high or pleasure than when the crowd says either up and especially down. A life hangs on my whim. And like a god, I can either determine they live or they die. And then that's the world that we live in now. Thank you for that call. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, quick reset. I want to go right back to the phone lines. Now Kamala Harris goes all in. She now says, if I win in November, the Democrats keep control of the Senate, we're getting rid of the legislative filibuster. Your reaction next. 8:20 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. You can also text the Kuhner Man, 70470. And as always, you can message me on Messenger. This is from Craig. You know, regarding abortion being used as a form of birth control by a lot of women now. And this is why maybe Kamala and the Democrats want to have no limits, no restrictions, a radical national abortion law. So Craig goes, Jeff, maybe we need to lower the cost of condoms. And then he adds, hell, maybe liberal guys just can't figure out how to put a condom on. and then just the coup de grace, as the French would say. Jeff, ask Bill from Sudbury next time he's on. I swear to you, I love this audience. I really do, man. Of course, in a non-sexual way, always in a non-sexual way. Maria in Ludlow. Thanks for holding, Maria, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Maria?
I'm doing well, thank you. Question for you. Who did Trump call to have that impeachment on him? Who is the president?
It was Zelensky.
Oh. So now it's okay for Zelensky to come to America and campaign for Kamala? That's okay now? But back then it was an impeachable offense for Trump to speak to him?
That's a great point. That is a great point. I didn't even think of it that way. You're right. You want to talk about election interference. It is direct, pure foreign election interference.
I find it amazing how this is okay now, and nobody is talking about it. But back in the day, they were throwing Trump to the wolves. They were impeaching him. How dare he speak to Zelensky? Oh, my God. But my second point that I wanted to make is I keep hearing these buffoons talking about women's reproductive rights, and I don't see it that way at all. To me, reproductive rights is reproducing, having children, having babies, building families. This is not reproductive rights. This is murder rights. For that buffoon to be on TV and saying that is a lie, to not have abortions until after the baby is born, that was a complete lie. And explain to me how, if somebody murders a woman that is pregnant, that man or whomever is charged with double homicide for the woman's death and the unborn child. But this is okay. Murdering, this is not reproductive rights. It's murdering rights. And I am not understanding how people cannot see that.
Maria, I'm telling you, you are on fire this morning. Did you have an extra cup of coffee or something? Because you're killing it today, Maria. Maria, I've got to ask you, obviously Kamala's making a play for the feminist vote, maybe even the younger college age, I would guess, or early 20s, younger female vote. Do you think it's going to pop? Do you think it's going to resonate? Do they care that much about this issue?
Oh, I don't think it's going to work at all. Because these young teeny boppers apparently have nothing else better to do than to listen to lies. Maybe they should educate themselves and people should talk to them. Because I'm speaking like this because I had four people, liberal people, that are now registering as Republicans because I sit down and I speak to these women and explain to them. They're very liberal, sweet Jesus they are. And I'm like, explain to me your point of view. I don't want to argue. I want you to explain to me what makes you want to vote for this woman. And they were like, oh, my abortion rights, blah, 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 blah. I said, abortion rights? You mean killing rights? I had to, turn it in a way for them to understand on my point of view. Why are they so obsessed with killing children, killing babies? And I had to go graphic. I pulled up videos and I showed them. This is what it looks like when they murder a child, up to birth and after birth. They explain in detail what they do. Of a woman calling one of these clinics and saying, I am in my third trimester, and what would you guys do, and blah, blah, blah. And they were like in shock. I said, explain to me what other policies is she talking about besides?
Oh, you're dead on. Maria, look, honestly, outstanding call. One of the best calls I've ever had. Maria, thank you so much for that call. 617-266-6868. Don't touch that dial. 8:32 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Lines are loaded. Pauline in Cambridge. Thanks for holding, Pauline, and welcome.
Good morning, and thank you very much, Jeff. I'm going to make it very short as much as I can. I've been listening to you folks, but I haven't heard what I'm looking for. I just giving you the outlines. I'll get back another
Pauline,
time.
can you do me a favor? I can barely hear you. Can you speak up a little louder, please?
Hear me now?
You're a little better. Okay, go ahead, Pauline.
Okay, what I'm saying is I haven't heard what I'm looking for. Number one, I'm just going to give you outlines. I heard about 2 years ago, prior to COVID, the Lord gave me a message to tell the people that something was coming that has never happened before. And what I'm to do is tell them, but I didn't know what it was. So I rode the trains and the buses, and I told the people just the same. COVID-19 came. However, after COVID-19, I think it was Bill Gates and the oligarchs. They had a meeting there in Germany, I think it was. And I heard with my own ears, Bill Gates says that the world is overpopulated by 3 million people, and they have to get rid of them. That is one I'm going to tell you. The second one, I can explain another time. The second one, we are not fighting Russia or China. This fight is between America and Rome. Rome is the leader in everything that's going on. That's biblical. Okay, I'm not asking, I'm just telling you it's biblical. And so for the people who don't know, read The Great Controversy by Ellen G. White. This is a fight between good and evil. And this is God and the enemy. Because God saying, I have my true church. The other place say, I have my true church. The other one is, Have your people read the red book for information for voters, and then you'll know which street we're on. I've been reading it, studying it. The people who can't read, the Republican would never make it if somebody do not sit with them and enlighten them. This is a prophetic election. In 2015, the Lord showed me that Mr. Trump would win the election. On June 10th, the Lord released me and said, I release you today as a prophet to the nations, okay? 2015, the Lord showed me that Mr. Trump would win the election. I told people, they laughed
So,
at me.
Pauline, I'm just curious. Now, the Lord said that Trump's going to win in 2024. Did he tell you how many electoral college votes he's going to get?
What he told me in 2015, he would win. But another sister said she saw the dog speaking, and the dog said, I'm coming back, I'm coming back. The dog was tied to a post, and the dog said, I'm coming back, I'm coming back. So that's the reason why I'm saying this is prophetic. It's not humanly possible for me to say that he told me he's going to win. It is prophetic. And that's the reason why they cannot
Pauline,
kill him.
I hope you're right. I really hope you're right. I hope he wins. And I'm going to do everything I can to help him win. Pauline, thank you very much for that call. Obviously, I disagree. I don't think the Vatican is the central of all evil in the world. As a Roman Catholic, I don't believe that. But again, we agree to disagree. Although I'm not happy with the current Pope, I can tell you this. 617-266-6868 is the number. I just want to say one quick thing. We are not at war with Russia. We're not. But you wouldn't know that from Josh Shapiro signing that artillery shell and bragging about how we're going to kill Russian civilians with weapons made here in the United States. We are not at war with Russia. Yet we're acting like we're at war with Russia. Russia is not at war with us. They're at war with Ukraine. Now, wherever you stand on that issue, the fact of the matter is Russia is not at war with us. But we are determined, or at least our leaders, our elites, are determined to have war with Russia. And what the people don't seem to understand, at least the Democrats and liberals and these crazy neoconservatives, is that Russia has nuclear warheads. As I said earlier, the largest nuclear arsenal in the world. So if there's World War III between NATO, an American-led NATO, and Russia, it could easily spiral into a nuclear war. And in a nuclear war, nobody wins. And you're right. Bill Gates did say, in fact, he said it repeatedly, we are overpopulated by billions and billions and billions of people. That's why the World Economic Forum explicitly, they go, it's a conspiracy. It's not what conspiracy? It's out in the open. They go, we need wars. We need famines. We need pandemics because we need to reduce the world's population. Now, let's bring it back to abortion. I'm going to read to you. I got some brilliant texts and messages where many of you are saying, Jeff, that's the real issue here. The real issue behind this radical push for abortion now is because they want population control. Here is Tracy. This is what Tracy wrote to me on Messenger just maybe about an hour ago. Jeff, just a thought about abortion. Do you think maybe they want no limits and federal government involvement so eventually they can demand abortions like in China, the one child policy? They want population control. Bingo. Bingo. That's why they want the federal government completely involved in abortion. All the way up until the baby is born. Because eventually, it's obvious, they can then compel abortions in the name of climate change, in the name of saving the planet, in the name of global warming, in the name of there's just too many people, our carbon footprint, Too many people. Sorry. You want more than one child? Too bad. You have to abort the child, whether you like it or not. I mean, the logic is inexorable. This is from Tom. And again, think about now how pernicious and insidious this is becoming. Okay? Just listen to this. Tom on Messenger. Jeff, a friend of mine, that person's daughter, is a pharmacist for CVS. And she is being certified to prescribe the abortion pill. So women don't even need to go to a doctor or an abortion clinic anymore. Well, that's clear. That's the future. In other words, you can just go up to your local Walgreens or CVS. I want an abortion. I want the abortion pill. Okay, here it is. Have a nice day. So you just take a couple tablets, drink some water, and the baby's dead. No mess, no fuss, no problem. Make it as clinical, as surgical, as pharmaceutical as possible. Hell, Big Pharma is going to make a mint off of this. So they're going to get Big Pharma involved. So now you've got massive financial interests at stake so that women can more easily kill their unborn child. 617-266-6868. Okay, very, very quick. This is from 781. Jeff, shouldn't you be able to define what a woman is before you can protect their rights? Well, that's notice when it comes to abortions, suddenly, they know what a woman is. They know a woman's plumbing. They know her biology. Oh, man. Then they can define a woman. Have you noticed that? Okay, one more, and then I want to go to the phone lines. And this is very good. I mean, this is 508, and I think really hits the nail on the head. Jeff, being a mother is a sacred right and the greatest gift to bring a life into the world. Basing a campaign on ending a life is disgraceful and goes against the natural order of life. Why should a woman taking a life be legal? Why should women, in caps, have the right to kill above anyone else? Where is the man in all this? She couldn't have done it without him. The Democrats are the party of death. They have no regard for the sanctity of life. I agree. I completely agree. And look, in the upcoming vice presidential debate, I hope J.D. Vance brings up Minnesota's radical abortion law that Kamala wants as the model for the whole country now. 5 babies, 5, who were born in a botched abortion after the 8th or 9th month of pregnancy. They were babies were murdered. They killed a live baby. You don't get more evil than that. I hope J.D. crucifies Waltz over this. 8:50 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, Larry in Leominster, maybe 2 hours ago, whenever, he was one of our callers today, made a very interesting point, which is, Jeff, I don't think most people even know what the filibuster is. And then Joe in Boston said the exact same thing. Said, Jeff, look, you know the filibuster. Many people in the audience know the filibuster. I don't think most people know what the, abolishing or nuking or getting rid of the filibuster, what it actually means. Never mind all the dangerous, destructive consequences now that Kamala's come out and said, I win and the Democrats keep the Senate, the legislative filibuster will be gone. We will blow it up. It'll be the end of it. So, let me ask all of you. It is the Kuhner Country poll question of the day, sponsored by Mario's. Mario's Quality Roofing, Siding, and Windows. Sandy, how did we phrase it? Do you know what a filibuster is? Is that how we're going to phrase the question? Okay. Do you know what a filibuster is? And please answer as honestly as possible. Do you know what a filibuster is? A, yes. B, no. You can vote on our webpage, wrko.com/Kuhner, Kuhn as in national ER, wrko.com/Kuhner. You can also vote via X, my handle there, at the Kuhner Report, Kuhn as in national ER, all one word. Lines are loaded. Let's go to Bob in Plymouth. Thanks for holding, Bob, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. Thanks for taking my call.
My pleasure, Bob.
You know, you said it earlier that nobody can be that stupid with some of the things that Kamala is proposing, and it scares me to think that she knows something that we don't know about stealing this election, especially after you told me the story about Soros buying all those radio stations, and now they're getting all these people, illegal aliens, to register to vote. There's a game going on here, and I sense it, and I just feel it. I'm sorry, you know.
Well, look, that's my big fear. If you really, if I can, like I'm in the confessional, Bob, my fear is I think Soros is going to buy us all out. That's my real fear. That, look, he's a smart man. He's an evil man. No question about it. But, look, when I used to lecture at McGill, when I used to teach history, I would always say this about Hitler and about Stalin and about Mao. And it would always bother my students. And I'm like, why are you bothered by this? I would say, Hitler was a genius. Stalin was a genius. Mao was a genius. But they're evil. In other words, you can be diabolical. In fact, the devil, the devil is brilliant. Demonic, evil, of course, no question. But absolutely brilliant, cunning, smart, always playing chess, thinking, planning, 2, 3, 4 moves ahead. So, people say, well, it's a compliment. Well, it's the truth. Intelligence can be used for good or it can be used for bad. And, let's not deny reality. Look, Trump said this, got in big trouble. And he's looking around like, what is wrong with you? He said, Putin is a very smart man. He goes, Xi Jinping is a brilliant man. He goes, you sit down and talk to him. He knows 10,000 years of Chinese history. He's very well read. He's a dictator of a very large country. He goes, the guy is sharp as a tack. He goes, what do you think we're dealing with? Idiots, morons? He goes, a lot of people I deal with around the world, they are against our interests. They're bad people, but they're very smart. So to beat them, you got to be smart as well. So, going back to what you're saying, George Soros is an evil, demonic, I'm telling you, he's a demonic man. I believe he's satanic. But like Satan, he's always outmaneuvering us. First of all, he keeps getting wealthier. He's passed off his empire now to his son. Look how many NGOs he set up. Look how many groups he set up. Look at the influence this man has amassed. How many countries he directly meddles and intervenes in. How much power he wields. And he may be on the verge of tipping this election for Kamala Harris. I mean, we'll see. But his people now are registering illegal aliens left, right, and center. And now he's buying up talk radio. He's smart. And he knows his enemy, and he attacks the weak points of his enemy. And so my biggest fear, I'll be brutally honest with you, because you see, we're not smart. I mean, how do I say? We're smart, but we're not strategic the way the left is. We don't have conservative billionaires who buy the New York Times. We don't do that. We just don't do that. We don't have conservative billionaires who will buy up CNN or whatever, one of the big networks. See, we don't think like that. They understand the importance of the media. They understand the importance of propaganda. They understand the importance of culture and how that shapes politics. They understand the importance of indoctrinating the youth. So politically, strategically, they're playing three-dimensional chess. We're always playing checkers. And my big fear, I'll be brutally honest with you, is that Soros is going to buy up talk radio stations around the country. He's going to buy up the big talk radio, conglomerates now. He's got Odyssey. He bought them up. He's got 220 stations. He wants Cumulus. He wants to take on iHeart head-to-head. He said that. And he wants to either drive iHeart into bankruptcy. He wants to bury iHeart. And I'm telling you, he wants to bury this show. He wants to take me off the air. But not just me, obviously. He wants Mark Levin off the air. He wants certain other conservative talk show hosts off the air. So I'm with you, Bob. I don't have a good feeling about this. And notice, they're really setting up now Obama's fourth term. It's all laid out for them. Steal this election, wipe out your opponents in the media, go after Trump and his family, put them behind bars, get rid of the filibuster. You've got this global governance pact now with the United Nations. So you will have a globalist regime now set up. Pack the Supreme Court. Puerto Rico, Washington, D.C. become states. You have a national federalized election law, which makes it universal mail-in balloting, no voter IDs. They can cheat and steal every election until kingdom come. Go for the guns, and this thing is over. Game, set, match. So they're putting together the pieces of their hammer and sickle, their communist revolution. So we better be ready, and we better start counterattacking, because they're playing for keeps. They're not messing around. Bob, thank you very much for that call. 617-266-6868. You see, the one mistake that conservatives make again and again, we constantly underestimate the enemy. And that's the worst thing you can ever do. I always say this. When there's a boxing match, when there's a fighter who's overconfident, that's when you're setting up yourself to lose. You have to show the enemy the respect of never underestimating him. You may dislike him. You may hate him. You may think they're completely morally and intellectually bankrupt. But think about it. They're on the cusp of Sean McMeekin, one of the best living historians we have today, has a new book out. It's called The Rise and Fall and Rise of Communism. Okay, I've read reviews. I bought the copy. I haven't read it yet. His point is, you had the communist revolution, the Bolsheviks, the Berlin Wall, it came crashing down, and now it's risen again. And he's warning that this election will be the equivalent of the 1917 Bolshevik Revolution. So never underestimate the communists. And conservatives did so in the past to our peril. Don't do it again. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, I'm going to continue to take your calls, I promise. Best audience in the business. But joining me now, as she always does at this time, Dr. Grace, putting liberals in their place. Grace Vuoto. Grace has a brilliant column out. I am urging all of you to read it. I think it's one of her best columns that she's ever written. She lays out the economic and political case against Kamala Harris. It's the title says it all. Harris owes voters more than strategic ambiguity. You can read it, wrko.com/Kuhner, wrko.com/Kuhner. We posted it a couple hours ago. Dr. Grace, how are you?
I am very well, Jeff. Thank you so much for having me on.
Dr. Grace, I want to ask you, I mean, if we have time, we'll obviously get into your magnificent column. But if not, that's okay because people can read it. What I want to ask you, I want to play the cut and get your reaction. Kamala Harris now has crossed the Rubicon. She's now calling for abolishing the legislative filibuster. In particular, she wants to do it to codify Roe v. Wade, have a national abortion law, no limits, no restrictions. But if you nuke the filibuster, you nuke it for everything. So essentially now, from this point forward, if she wins, you'd only need 50% plus one to pass any piece of legislation. Listen to Kamala, and I want to get your reaction. Roll cut 15, Mike.
I've been very clear. I think we should eliminate the filibuster for Roe, and we need and get us to the point where 51 votes would be what we need to actually put back in law the protections for reproductive freedom and for the ability of every person and every woman to make decisions about their own body and not have their government tell them what to do.
Independents were shocked and outraged. Joe Manchin, who's now an independent, blasted it. Kirsten Sinema, independent from Arizona, blasted it. I want to play Manchin. This was him in the hallway in the Senate, Dr. Grace. And then obviously I want to get your react. Please listen to what he says. He says this is the one thing that literally could destroy our country. And for this, he is not going to vote for Kamala. Roll cut 15A, Mike.
Shame on her. Shame on her. She knows that filibuster is the holy grail of democracy.
You're not going to endorse her?
I'm not endorsing her. No. I think that's basically something that can destroy our country, and my country is more important to me than any one person or any one person's ideology.
It's the holy grail of democracy, according to Senator Manchin, and it's the one thing that can destroy our country. What say you?
Look, it's obvious that Harris is going to go all in to try to get more of the female vote. Right now, if you look at the polls, she's not doing as well as she needs to do with black men and with Latinos in general. So Trump has made inroads there. Those are traditionally Democratic strongholds. But where she's doing really well, and she's killing Trump, on young women, women younger than 35, women even younger than 29. The gap is huge. And so she's going all in to get as much of the female vote out as she possibly can. And I know, Jeff, you're going to say, but don't women care about inflation and the border? Well, the polls show that for women, yes, inflation is the number one issue, but guess what their number two issue? Unlike for men, for women, the number two issue is reproductive rights. So this is purely a campaign strategy. She thinks this, making abortion rights the cause célèbre of her campaign, is going to turn out enough of the people she needs to go to the polls on that day.
Do you think she's right?
You know, what I've been astonished at is the fanaticism revolving around this issue. Like I say, it's a cause célèbre. You know, I've heard you talking with your callers, trying to get a handle on it. I've had debates with women, and it doesn't matter if they're of reproductive age or not. It's a trigger issue. She is banking that it's going to get them to the polls. The only question is this: how many men, black and Latino, are so turned off by it that it gets them out to the polls? It's the backlash. Look, I think it's going to work in terms of motivating women. But what about the backlash? And that's what Trump is building on.
Grace, I've got to ask you, Dr. Grace, you know, you said young women in particular, under 35, especially under 21.
Under 29, yes.
Forgive me, under 29, my bad. Under 29. This is like the cause of their life. As you put it, it's a cause célèbre. It's the only cause. Why? Objectively, really. You have all the birth control you can possibly want. It's cheap. It's abundant. In most states, abortion is legal. Here in Massachusetts, it's legal up until birth. 9 months. So no one is going to touch abortion in the overwhelming majority of states. It will be legal. You have so many contraception options now, really. So what is this a damning indictment of this generation of women that they don't even have the basic personal responsibility to take the pill or insist that their partner wear a condom or to recognize that in their own state where they live, nothing is going to happen to them? Are they that brainwashed? Frankly, are they that pathetic?
Just look, if you deal with that generation, every option has to be given to them. Everything. It's not enough to say, I'm giving you 7, I'm giving you 8, I'm giving you 9. No, they want the 10. So the answer to your question is, it does mean a lot to them. And look at the statistics. Out of every 5 live births, 1 baby is going to be killed. So the 6th baby is going to be aborted. That's a lot of abortions. And they just want to have that right, meaning, hey, I messed up with contraception. I still want to have sex consequence-free. I'm sorry, but I just want to take it even to our own daughter, who's very, very young. But if you look at her behavior on other things, right, she's just 12, right? If we go to Target and I say, I can give you 1 toy, yay! But by the time you're trying to get her that 1 toy, can I have 2? Can I have 3? Can I have that one? Can I have 4? And you're turning something positive. I want to really give you 1 toy and I want you to be happy. And now I'm arguing with you because you want more than 1. And this is just writ large. I can give you 9 out of 10. They're going to want that 10 out of 10. That's how they think.
Grace, has abortion for a lot of younger women, under 35, under 29, is it now just a form of birth control? Like that's really what the ultimate, fail-safe birth control? In other words,
more than that.
Go
yes,
ahead.
it's that. It's a practical desire, but even deeper than that, it's an ideology. It's a religion. It's a fanaticism. It represents freedom. It represents being able to do whatever you want. It represents sticking it to men. It represents overthrowing the patriarchy. It represents sticking it to every lover that ever abused you, to every man that let you down, to every job opportunity you didn't get. It's a fanaticism, Jeff.
Interesting. Okay, Dr. Grace, the filibuster in general, the fact that now she says she's going to blow it, she's going to nuke it. They have an agenda. They're open about it. Adam Schiff wrote it out for them. It is basically the core. They talk about Project 2025. No, they have their own project, and everybody knows it. You knock out the filibuster. Yes, you codify Roe v. Wade, but they're going to say we're going to do much more than that. We're going to pack the Supreme Court from 9 to 13 justices. That way now they can control the Supreme Court. Puerto Rico, Washington, D.C. become states. That gives each state 2 Democratic senators, 4 extra senators in perpetuity. The Republicans will have no chance to win back a majority. They will start to confiscate guns. All they need is 50 plus 1. And down the list they will go. Federalize elections. Get rid of all state voter ID laws. Make mail-in balloting universal across the country. This is their push for their radical socialist transformation of America. Will the fact that she's calling for an end to the filibuster, will this turn off enough of the Joe Manchins, the Kirsten Sinemas, the independent voters out there that this will blow up in her face? Or do you think people don't know about the filibuster and don't care about the filibuster? You have a minute.
Jeff, I think there's just too much ignorance out there. What she is banking on is that this sends the signal to the people that she needs to show up. The Swifties. Remember, that was huge. Taylor Swift's endorsement of her is ginormous. Don't underestimate that. She's banking that it's going to send to them, I'm all in on your side. That's all that they want to hear. And this is her election gambit to get those people to turn out. The consequences after that, they're totally ignorant about that.
Interesting. As always, fascinating stuff, Dr. Grace. I urge everyone, check out her column. It's an absolute doozy. Send it off to your friends, family members, It's a devastating case against Kamala Harris. Grace made the case against Kamala. Go to WRKO.com/Kuhner, WRKO.com/Kuhner, KUHN is in National ER. The column is called Harris Owes Voters More Than Strategic Ambiguity. Dr. Grace putting liberals in their place. Thank you so much, Grace. And we'll talk to you same time, same place next week. And by the way, full disclosure, she's my better half. She's my wonderful wife. So I don't want liberals complaining. Why does he have his wife on? I just said it. 20 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer, cleaning up the liberal bull. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, this is from 917. Jeff, remember I went on about we constantly underestimate our enemy, Soros being one of them. Well, this is a really good point from 917. Jeff, we underestimate our enemy because we aren't like them. We find it hard to believe that people will actually do dastardly deeds and be so diabolical. But our side had better wake up. How much evidence do we need to see that the culture of death is coming for us? And just to reinforce that point, apparently now it's everywhere. So the Biden-Harris regime, and this was pushed by Kamala Harris, Comrade Kamala in particular, waived all the rules at the FCC to help Soros take over 200 radio stations in over 40 markets, including here in Boston. Odyssey now is fallen to George Soros, that apparently has reaches an audience of a potential audience of 165 million Americans. So this was Kamala, and she helped push this deal through, even though it violated FCC rules. So this is crony capitalism at its absolute worst, and it was done just weeks ahead of the presidential election. So Soros now is going to put liberal talking heads, liberal pundits on talk radio in over 40 markets that can reach potentially 165 million Americans, over 220 stations. They're going to do everything they can to try to steal this election. 617-266-6868. Barbara in Maryland. Thanks for holding, Barbara, and welcome.
Thanks so much for taking my call. And what a great show today. When I first started listening, I wanted to talk about Zelensky and what happened up there with him in Philly. But I just want to say this about this abortion issue. Being a black woman, and it seems like young black women, the thought is that they don't care about having babies. I don't think that's true. I don't believe the hype around abortion. I live in a state here in Maryland. Abortion is legal up to the moment of birth. And I have found, because I'm one of those advocates that's out there, I'm not anti-abortion. I don't think abortion should be illegal. I don't think we should go back to that time. It's a personal choice to be made, in my opinion. But there has to be a cutoff. There has to be some sort of moral ground here, and up to birth in Maryland is where they do it, and you set up in Massachusetts as well. What I have found, being an advocate for our policies to change here in Maryland, people don't know that babies are being killed up to 9 months. So they never talk about that. They never address it. When President Trump brings it up, they try to gloss over it as if it's not true, that's not what's happening, but it is. And I think that is how we can combat that, along with the fact that the morning after pill may kill the mother. And how about a little abstinence, which a little self-respect, and use the birth control? You talked about all the birth control methods we have. Abortion should be almost absolutely unnecessary, except under extraneous circumstances, in my opinion, because there's so many avenues, so many ways to prevent pregnancy now that it's ridiculous. I just don't understand. I don't get it. So that said, I'm a little upset about what's going on with Mr. Zelensky coming here. So why he has the right to come here and expect Americans to agree and get behind what he's doing in the Ukraine, while we have problems here that no one seems to be considering. And they're also not looking at, and to me, I don't think they're looking at the possibility of the long-range problems, because Russia is a nuclear power. How do you keep poking a bear that has nuclear weapons? Because that's complete annihilation. I hope they won't use it, but I think they're kind of pushing the envelope here, trying to instigate something with them. I'm not sure what's going on. And now with Iran, I think it was Pauline. You had a prophet person call in. I think her name was Pauline, about good and evil. I agree, good and evil, but it's not Rome. And I'm not Catholic, but it isn't Rome. I put Iran at the head of that evil axis that's really working to get rid of a lot of our rights and to get rid of us if they can.
Barbara, you're dead on. I mean, look, I got to tell you that this is the one issue that keeps me up at night. It genuinely does. The risk of nuclear war with Russia and now soon maybe with Iran. And if there's any reason to vote for Trump, I mean, there's many, but to me, the number one reason is the issue of World War III. And you're right, we're poking a bear with nuclear weapons. And not only poking the bear, Barbara, we're openly saying we want regime change in Russia. So they're backing Putin into a corner. And a desperate Putin is a dangerous Putin. And may God help us. These warmongers are going to get us all killed if we don't beat them in November. Barbara, as always, thank you for that call. Text line is on fire. 9:31 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer, 617-266-6868 if you want to be part of the show. Okay, text line 70470. 70470. Okay, many of you are making just absolutely superb points. This is from 602, and this texter is saying, Jeff, I'm a longtime female listener of your show. Dr. Grace is completely right. I want to add one other point. Kamala needs more of the white female vote. It is the largest voting bloc in the country. Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, so white females are the largest voting bloc. Interesting. And they chose Trump both in 2016 and 2020. Kamala is leading with women overall, but not with the white female vote. Only Bill Clinton and Lyndon Johnson won the white female vote. Hence, this is her gambit on abortion. She is bleeding too much with black men and Latinos, so she has to go deep, not wide, to win. So, in other words, pick up even more female voters and especially white women voters. Interesting. Okay. This is from 802. Jeff, we're watching Marxists destroy our country while Republicans we sent to stop them are silent, gutless, and complicit. You nailed it. You absolutely nailed it, 602. Okay, let's go to Dave in Chelsea. Thanks for holding, Dave, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi,
Jeff.
Dave.
She can't destroy the filibuster if she gets elected. The filibuster's been around since the 1920s, the 40s, and ever since Mr. Smith went to Washington with Jimmy Stewart. On top of it, Jeff, all kidding aside, who is she to just say she's going to take over and do that? Jeff, it's been around for ages, since I was a little kid. How could she just say she's going to take over and say she's going to do whatever she wants What else is she going to pull out of her hat? Everything she's doing is illegal, Jeff. How could she legally get away with it and do it? And on top of it, Jeff, not to change the subject, Zelensky's wife is in Boston at the State House yesterday.
Oh, and what did she say? Did they sign other pieces of ammunition or missiles? Were they autographing missiles in Boston too, Dave?
I don't know what she was doing there. All you could see is Molly Heady and her together and saying, oh, yeah, we'll give you whatever you want, pretty much, in support.
You know, David, isn't it incredible how they're willing to send hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars with the B, and yet while Americans here are sleeping on the streets, we have homeless veterans. You know this better than anybody, Dave. In Boston, you see these homeless camps everywhere. Many Americans are struggling to pay their groceries, pay their rent. They're barely getting by. And yet we're squandering all of this money in this endless war in which we have no national interest whatsoever. Honestly, Dave, it's mind-boggling. And, you know, and she goes, and Maura Healey, you're right. Maura Healey's like, yeah, we'll give you a blank check. How much money you want? Why don't you take care of the people in your own state? Hell, our bridges are collapsing, practically. The Sagamore Bridge is on the verge of, look, I'm just telling you what the Cape Cod Times is reporting. The Bourne Bridge, the Sagamore Bridge, there's no money. They were built in the 1930s. So there's no money to refurbish and strengthen our bridges. But there's money to send all these billions of dollars to Ukraine. Dave, these people are insane. Forget America first. With them, it's America last. Dave, am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong, Jeff. And just to add to a point, not to change the subject, but Jeff, on Mass and Cass, they gated off the entire sidewalk where they used to all hang out and shoot the fentanyl all day long. So they actually gated off the entire street of Mass and Cass on the corner. I was kind of shocked when I saw that.
Yeah, and they're going to push them into other areas now. I mean, it's just, I'm telling you, Boston is going to become utterly unlivable very soon. I really feel sorry for people in Boston and in the near greater Boston area. They're going to turn it into a third world hellhole, I'm telling you. It's going to be just like New York, just like Chicago, just like Seattle or Portland. It's coming. Dave, thank you very much for that call. 617-266-6868. And now apparently there are reports that Haitian migrants are now coming into Boston. So, and there's no room to put them anywhere because all the motels, all the hotels, all the shelters are full to the brim, full. But because there's no money. But again, Slava Ukraini, there's money for Ukraine. That there's always money for. 617-266-6868. So remember I said this about Springfield? I said, you watch. They're going to bring Springfield to every city in the country. Well, Boston, get ready, because we're going to be the new Springfield. Pamela in Swampscott. Thanks for holding, Pamela, and welcome.
I just want to say I've listened to you for years, and I want to tell you that I'm a senior, I'm single, unmarried, childless, cat lady who loves men. So, anyways,
God bless you, Pamela.
Thanks. My career was working in education for a long time as a traveling teacher in special ed, and I've seen since the late 70s a slow, insidious change in education. And it's not politics that are dividing us as a nation. It's really emotions. And it all starts with the education. And it's no longer about the individual becoming successful, but rather why the individual cannot be successful. And that's what's happening with our students. And I was fortunate enough to be on the outside looking in because I worked with preschool to high school, so I saw all ages and how they were being affected with what was going on in the world. And we make the mistake as conservatives of trying to be rational, but you can't be rational with people who are emotional thinkers. And because what happens is that we appear smart, intelligent, and if they're weak and insecure, and we try to give them all our logical reasons. Well, why do you think this, and why do you think that, and what about abortion? And when you talk about that, we make them feel more inferior and weak and less than, so they lash out and dig in their heels, and it's just really hard to deal with. And I have a sister who's very liberal, and how much she hates Trump, and you can't talk to her in a rational way. But if you talk to her about an emotional way of like, oh, so, what do you think? And you get them talking emotionally, like that previous caller said, that they let their guard down and they don't feel like they're being attacked. So...
No, well, Pamela, forgive me. Pamela, I got to tell you, I've noticed that over the years. I've been on radio now for a long time, and the hate that I get now is very different than the hate mail I used to get. It's much more, you're right, it's very emotion-based. It's incredibly irrational. And I like the phrase, lash out. They just lash out. And it's like, you're threatening their worldview. How dare... it's almost like an Islamist. And you challenge the premises of Islam, and they go berserk. Like they want to tear you limb from limb. That's how it feels like with many liberals. It's like a form of political fundamentalism. Islam is... radical Islam is religious fundamentalism. Political fundamentalism now with these liberals. And abortion is that's their first commandment. Abortion is the top of issue for them. Open borders, the migrants, that's like number 2, and gun control, and you can tell they have their 10 commandments as well. But that to me is the scariest thing of all. And you mentioned education, Pamela. This is my daughter last night. We're just driving to the pharmacy. I had to get more stuff for my lungs. I think I have bronchitis. Let that go. Anyway, so I'm buying more cough medication. And she's describing to me how in her school now, even in her class, there are students, furries. Like literally, they're kids who walk around, she's describing it to me, on all fours. And either they're cats or they're dogs. And they even wear headbands. Like with, that to show, dog ears, or their cats. And I go, what do the teachers do? They go, the teachers do nothing. The teachers, if you're a cat, you can meow, and you can have a saucer of milk, and you can drink on all floors from your saucer of milk. It's all cheap emotion now. If I identify as a cat, I'm a cat. If I identify as a dog, I'm a dog. No, you're crazy. You're delusional. It's all emotion-based. We're no longer dealing with logic, reality, the truth. And my daughter says, Daddy, honestly, she said this to me last night. We're living in a scary time. There are crazy people, Dad. 9:50 on the break, WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer, 617-266-6868. Victor in Georgetown. Thanks for holding, Victor. And as always, welcome.
Thanks, the best guy in the biz.
I know. He is.
Victor, my friend. Okay, let's see if we can reconnect with Victor. Brenda in Beverly. Thank you for holding, Brenda, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. I have 2 points to make about this whole nonsense with Kamala.
Yes.
First, I want to piggyback on a previous caller. I think it was in the second hour. His name was Henry. He mentioned an organization that I'm connected to, and I would like the audience to make a mental note or to jot it down. LiveAction.org. It's a fabulous organization. It counters all the lies related to abortion. It's just a fabulous organization. In fact, they have a recent video called Meet Baby Olivia. So beautifully executed and done. It's a 3D depiction of fetal development from the moment of conception up until birth. I mean, it's the tears. It's just, and they're doing everything they can, let's say Kamala, to not have something like that in the school. Like, how dare you actually show how we all, including you, Kamala, how we all came to be. I mean, it takes my breath away. I mean, it's the beauty of life in the womb. There are no words sometimes for it because it's so magnificent, because it's something that we as people, as much as we want to, with AI and all this other crazy stuff going on, we can't do this. This is out of our hands. This is done by our Creator. And the other thing I would like to mention is she talks a good game in her clip about not wanting the government to interfere with her right to have reproductive freedom, reproductive justice, reproductive all this nonsense. Well, that's interesting. I would love to say to her, well, you folks brought this issue to the table back in the late 60s, and then it got, federalized through Roe v. Wade coming out to be able to have that. So you brought it to the government's table, and now you're flipping your bleep, okay? Because now it's not that it's off the table, but they talk with forked tongues, Jeff. You know this. It's like, oh, how dare you? How dare the government get involved? You brought this issue to the table in the first place. You brought it to the government, and you were all happy as a pig in a blanket that it got, taken care of so that you could have sex morning, noon, and night and not have any responsibility. I can just have sex all the time, and I can take care of it, because it's been dehumanized. I can just take care of it and just, throw a word, it's a fetus, it's a this or a that, and go about my merry way. Now, in terms of rape and incest, that's a whole different can of worms, and I would be much more sensitive. That's another whole, but we're talking about 98%. I think the figure's even like 98.5 with regards to abortion, that most of it's done for convenience. I was going to go abroad next year on my, junior year in college, and it's just not going to fit. It's just not going to work out. You know what? You have an option where you just shut your legs. You just don't have sex that night. All right? It's not the end of the world. You're not going to expire. But the messaging, the messaging, I hate to say this, has been brilliant from the get-go, because they framed it in the abstract, calling it a choice.
You nailed it. And Brenda, look, and to prove, they say they talk with a forked tongue, and you're right, to show you to me, the brazen, frankly, despicable hypocrisy is that all the same people, oh, it's a woman's body, the government has no right to tell you what to do with your body. Well, what happened during the vaccine, during COVID-19 and the lockdowns? And the jab and the vaccine mandates and the mask mandates. You destroy people's lives. You destroyed their health. You destroyed their education. You took away their jobs. You took away their careers. How many nurses lost their jobs? How many medical professionals lost their jobs? Because people like Kamala and Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton, I could go on and on. My body, my choice. Not when it came to the jab, that's for sure. So they don't even believe what they're saying. It's all, what it is you nailed it. It's using abortion as a form of birth control. And, you said, hey, you can shut your legs. You're not going to expire if you don't, have sex that night. Hey, there's the birth control pill. There's condoms. There's a million things. With all the birth control that we have, hell, all the sex ed in school, They're giving out contraceptives in school and college like it's candy. I believe most colleges, it's free. They hand out, it's free. The condoms are free. And the pill is almost nothing. It's on every student's health insurance plan. I think it's like, what is it, $6 a month or $7 a month? I mean, it's pocket money. So, no, no one's asking you to, not even asking you to forego sex. So, be a big boy, be a big girl, but don't kill the baby. It's really that simple. It's not one person, it's two. And on that happy note, bye-bye.